Hello, pup parents, and welcome to today's episode of the Perfect Pup Podcast. My name is Devin. I'm excited for today's episode. This is one that we had sent in, I believe, via the Facebook community, the 30 Day Perfect Pup Facebook community. And the topic that we're going to be covering is just some commonly confusing or mistaken or switched up behaviors slash cue words slash commands, whatever you want to call that. So let's get right into it. The question was this: could you do a list of commands and what their purpose is? This is my first doggy, and a lot of this is new to me. Like, what's the difference between leave it and drop it? Do they serve the same purpose? Same with wait slash stay. When do I say each word? As well as what are some other important commands that I need to be teaching right now? So first and foremost, something here at Pupford that we've kind of adopted, and a lot of this actually was with the influence of Zach George, is the word behaviors instead of commands, or cue words instead of commands. And I'm not going to dive too far into that, but I think it's a mentality thing, and it's an idea of we're not commanding our dogs, we're not forcing them to do things. It's behaviors, it's cue words, it's asking them to do things and getting a response in return. So let's go over some of the kind of common ones that can be confusing or maybe even sometimes seem exactly the same. And so you might be wondering, why do I need different words? So the first one is wait versus stay. The way that this has been taught to me and the way that I kind of use it in my home is wait means you're going to be able to go after something, or you're going to get released to go do something or go after something, but you're kind of waiting. It's more momentary. It's kind of shorter. Whereas stay is I'm going to come back to you. In most cases, you might still release your dog, but it's more of a kind of solid, a longer standing stay. So for example, when I'm feeding my dogs, I'll use wait, right? Like, because they're going to be able to go get the food. I'm telling them to wait, they're going to go. Whereas if I say stay, they should know that they're going to be not moving until they are either released or I come back to them, and or both. So again, it that might still sound like they're the same. And to be honest with you, they kind of are. And I'll cover that in the end of this episode as to why the words that we use really aren't that important, but I'll go over a couple other ones first. So the other one that was brought up in this question was leave it versus drop. So these ones are a little bit more contrasting, a little bit different. Leave it is going to be, I don't want you to go after that at all. I want you to not touch that or pick it up or go towards it. Whereas drop is likely you already have something in your mouth and you want the dog to drop what's in their mouth. So those two are a little bit more different. The one, again, that kind of can get confusing is leave it versus wait. And again, so leave it, in my mind, when I tell my dogs to leave something, I don't want them to ever go after it. I don't want them to look at it. I don't want them to go towards it. I don't want them to it needs to just be kind of disconnected from their mind. So that, in my mind, is the difference between leave it versus wait. So if I'm walking down the street and there is a slice of pizza on the ground, I'm going to say leave it, because I want the connection to be in my dog's brain of you're not getting that at all. That's not something you're going to have. And so I think one important thing to make the delineation here in your mind is when you tell your dog leave it, when you're practicing leave it, if you follow 30 Day Perfect Pup, that's one of the first things that is taught is leave it. And I think it's important to, if you're teaching your dog to leave something, so for example, a treat on the ground, when you're practicing, you don't want to give them the same treat. You want to have that disconnection of you're not getting the thing that I asked you to leave. It's off limits. You're never having it, versus wait. And that's where, if you're just working on impulse control and you tell your dog there's a treat on the ground and you tell them to wait, and then once they do, you release them, they're going after that thing. It's okay. They're going to be able to have it. So again, leave it, you're never having it. Wait means you're going to get it, but I need you to stop first, or I need you to pause, or I need you to kind of give me a second. So again, those are, they all sound very similar. And again, I want to emphasize that it's more important that you're focusing on behaviors and communication and your dog's understanding of kind of what is versus isn't wanted, versus, if you want to use the word commands, right? Like, those are just words that we use. You could, for stay, you could say party, or you could say microphone. Like you could say something that's totally irrelevant to your dog. Like it's just the connection that is made as we do that repetitive training. So the words that you use, don't get too hung up on those, because I mean, obviously once you kind of start with something, I think it is important to stick to that word, and especially in the beginning stages, help your dog make that connection to that word. Like, oh, stay means I'm sitting and waiting and not moving until human comes back and releases me. So focus on behaviors. And this is something that really helped me as I was training my dogs. I mean, we're always training our dogs, right? But especially when they were puppies, was kind of coming to that realization that the words that we use are just that. They're just words. But really, if I'm walking down the street and because over time I've had practice with this, and my dogs have had practice and they know kind of what is expected of them. If they see something on the ground, whether I say leave it or or just kind of give them a little nudge in the other direction, or even a like little clicking noise, they know that it means, hey, I don't want you to go after that. Please redirect your attention. And it's less about, oh, I'm saying the word leave it, or, I'm yelling leave it over and over and over and over again. Because in all reality, oftentimes the more we try to like use words with our dogs, the more they might just get confused. There's so much power in using things like lures, and there's so much power in just general impulse control and teaching our dogs to make decisions on their own. There's a little game that Trevor Smith teaches in the Intro to Dog Sports course in Pupford Academy. Basically, I believe it's called It's Your Choice, right? And so it's teaching our dogs, here's something in my hand. I don't have to say anything to you. I'm going to have my open hand. If you go after it, I'm going to close it. And over time, the dog learns, okay, if I just control my impulses and don't go after it, then I'm going to get it. Making our dogs understand it's your choice. The words that we're using really are just words and not anything to get too hung up on. I know as a new pup parent, it can feel really overwhelming because, especially if you go search online, you're going to see people call different things or the same behavior. You'll see 5 different words for it. And again, it's important to focus on behaviors and what your dog is learning and understanding and internalizing. And again, my kind of last point on this is, if you do start using a word, stick with it and do your best to be consistent throughout. And that means everyone in your home, if you have a dog sitter or a dog walker, using the same word or phrase just as much as possible to eliminate confusion. So I hope this episode was helpful. I hope it gives you some understanding of, wait versus stay, leave it versus wait, leave it versus drop, and generally speaking, to focus on behaviors and remember that words, they're just words, and they're not as important as the behaviors and the internal learning that our dogs can have when we use positive reinforcement, when we let them learn from the inside out, as Zach George likes to say, and not from the outside in. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't left a review, please do it. I read all of them and I appreciate all of them. And they're super helpful for other pup parents so that they can find this podcast and learn some of the things that you're learning as well. So if you want to kind of pay it forward, leave a review. I really appreciate it. And other than that, we will catch you on the next episode.